Donald Trump mugshot released. Former president surrenders in Fulton County, Georgia on election fraud charges and makes U.S. history. Donald Trump has made history by becoming the first former president to pose for a mugshot after his arrest for trying to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. The 77-year-old was arrested for the fourth time this year and fingerprinted by authorities at the Fulton County Jail. Unlike with his previous 3 arrests, on Thursday he had his booking photo taken. He stared into the camera for the historic image, with a scowl on his face. Trump's height and weight were recorded and, as part of the booking process, he was given a prisoner identification number, P01135809. He was then released on payment of 10% of his $200,000 bail, having spent less than 20 minutes inside the infamous facility. The former president traveled to Georgia on Thursday afternoon from his Bedminster, New Jersey, home. Ahead of his surrender, Trump slammed Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis as a radical left, low-life district attorney and posted on Truth Social that his arrest would occur at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. His surrender came hours after Willis requested Trump face trial in Georgia on October 23, and as his former chief of staff Mark Meadows surrendered to cops. A handful of other Trump allies and co-conspirators who turned themselves into the Georgia prison this week also had their mugshots released by the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. They are accused of joining a conspiracy led by Trump to unlawfully change the outcome of the election. America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani faced the humiliation of having his mugshot taken after getting booked at the Atlanta jail on Wednesday. In the image, Giuliani can be seen looking straight ahead, showing a slight frown, with industrial lighting shining on his forehead and a sheriff's badge on the wall to his right. The former Trump lawyer is facing 13 felony counts, including RICO charges. It was a stunning and symbolic turnaround for the former mob boss prosecutor, who famously used the RICO Act to take down the mafia in the 1980s during his time as a Manhattan prosecutor. Trump slammed the arrest of his former attorney in a Truth Social post after the release of Giuliani's mugshot. The greatest mayor in the history of New York City was just arrested in Atlanta, Georgia, because he fought for election integrity. The election was rigged and stolen. How sad for our country. Mega. Trump wrote. Mark Meadows immediately had a jail record in the Fulton County system that included details like his height and weight, 6'1" and 240 pounds, respectively. It described him as having blue eyes and gray or partially gray hair. In the photo released by the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, he angrily glares directly into the camera with a slight snarl on his lips. The first co-defendants to turn themselves in were attorney John Eastman and bail bondsman Scott Hall on Tuesday. Eastman wrote a memo laying out steps Vice President Mike Pence could take to interfere in the counting of electoral votes while presiding over Congress's joint session on January 6 in order to keep Trump in office. Former Georgia GOP chairman and state legislator David Schaefer and former Coffee County GOP chair Kathy Latham turned themselves in at the jail early Wednesday morning, both of their bonds set at $75,000. They have since been released. Georgia-based lawyer Ray Smith and Trump campaign attorney Ken Casebro were also booked Wednesday. Casebro's bond was set at $100,000, Smith's at $50,000, and both were released from jail about 2 hours after they arrived. Trump's fiery former attorney known as the Kraken, Sidney Powell, surrendered Wednesday afternoon in Georgia on $100,000 bond and had her mugshot released. Best known for the stories she spun about Dominion voting systems, Powell is another one of the strike force lawyers who toured the country unsuccessfully pitching a voter fraud theory to any and all legal bodies. An almost giddy-looking attorney Jenna Ellis, who was all smiles for her mugshot, handed herself over to authorities around the same time and was granted a $100,000 bond. Ellis retweeted accounts saying she absolutely owned that mugshot and just made mugshots great again. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis gave Trump and his co-defendants until noon on Friday, August 25, to voluntarily turn themselves over for booking and arraignment. The 41-count charge against the former president and his 18 co-defendants marks the fourth and latest indictment against him. Trump has not had to take a mugshot for his previous 3 indictments. He was charged with RICO racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations, a count which is frequently used to try mafia figures, cartel leaders, and gangland bosses. He is also charged with solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, perjury, and a host of other counts. If convicted on all charges, he faces 71 years in prison, and state charges, unlike federal, cannot be pardoned by a president. None of the 19 have yet entered pleas, since the arraignment process is separate from the booking process in Georgia. Willis has asked for those arraignments to take place the week of September 5th. The defendants can waive appearing at that trial, which is where they answer the charges against them. Lawyers are allowed to speak on their behalf. The FAA had issued a temporary flight restriction for the airspace around the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta due to a VIP moment today from 6:45 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The ex-president shook up the legal team handling his defense in the Georgia case, replacing attorney Drew Findling with Stephen Sado just hours before he headed down to Georgia to surrender. The rest of his team, including Jennifer Little and Marissa Goldberg, are expected to remain. He has also been booked in New York on an alleged hush money scheme, in Miami on accusations he mishandled classified information, and in Washington, D.C. on his attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. The Georgia jail is well known for its squalid conditions, although Trump will not be held there while he awaits trial. He posted on his Truth Social account on Wednesday that he was preparing to be proudly arrested in Georgia. Nobody has ever fought for election integrity like President Donald J. Trump, he wrote on his Truth Social account. For doing so, I will proudly be arrested tomorrow afternoon in Georgia. God bless the United States of America. Before his mugshot was formally released, Trump's campaign used a fake picture to fundraise on the back of the Fulton County Sheriff's threat. The campaign turned the image into t-shirts to sell. The former president's campaign claims it has raked in $8 million in donations since his first Manhattan indictment. Trump's arrest also comes hours after the first Republican presidential debate. 8 Republican contenders took the stage in Milwaukee on Wednesday night in a high-stakes face-off. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Asked Fox News host Bret Baier. Please raise your hand if you would. Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas, was the only candidate who refused to raise his hand. I did not raise my hand. Because there's an important issue we as a party have to face, he said. Over a year ago, I said that Donald Trump was morally disqualified from being president because of what happened on January 6th. Trump refused to attend the debate and instead opted to participate in an interview hosted by Tucker Carlson, which aired 5 minutes before the debate kicked off. Donald Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson had reached over 150 million viewers by early Thursday morning, giving his bid to steal the spotlight from Fox News' presidential debate a huge boost. The former president's 45-minute sit-down on X, formerly known as Twitter, aired as his GOP rivals bickered on stage in the crucial night for the 2024 White House race. Trump called his critics savages, spoke openly about the potential death of 80-year-old President Biden, and riffed about low-flow shower heads and electric cars. He said he didn't attend the debate because he is leading by 50 and 60 points in the polls and didn't want to be harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president. In the event, the debate descended into chaos, with Vivek Ramaswamy being called an amateur and a rookie. Ron DeSantis tried to stay out of the crossfire by focusing attacks on President Biden and touting how he would deal with the border crisis. Mike Pence said he would back a federal abortion ban, while Chris Christie was booed for saying Trump's conduct was beneath the office of the president. The debate got so chaotic that moderator Bret Baier of Fox News reminded the contenders, "We need to reestablish some ground rules. When we hear this bell, your time is done. We appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds." Toward the end of the night, as the shouting continued when the candidates moved into a lightning round of questions, Nikki Haley pleaded to the moderators, "You have to get control of this debate.